My husband abandoned me when I was 9 months pregnant so that he could attend his sister's lavish wedding. I destroyed my relationship with S and exposed her lies. I am 35 years old, married to my husband Andrew for 7 years, we have a 5-year-old daughter, and I am currently 7 months pregnant. The main reason I am here is that I need someone to listen, and anonymity is the best way to do that. My husband has always had a close relationship with his family, which I didn't mind during the dating stage. His family were always very kind to me whenever we met, but soon after we got married, I realized that he was very close to his mother and sister. It was like they had a gang-like friendship between the three of them. Although this did not affect our relationship as a couple, I just rolled my eyes at the three of them gang up instead of me and move on. At any social gatherings or parties, they usually criticize others. At first they tried to involve me in their fun activities, but I'm not the kind of person who likes to gossip, so I kept out of it. But they didn't bother me, so I didn't bother them either. Although my in-laws weren't exactly warm and friendly towards me, they usually kept out of my circle of life, and I avoided contact with them as much as possible. I don't like to laugh at people's backs, and I don't like to gossip behind people's backs. Anyway, after I got pregnant with my first child, I stopped going to my in-laws' house. First, I was looking for a reason to cut ties with them. Second, my in-laws were toxic. My husband is kind and gentle, but goodness knows what he becomes when he meets his mother and sister. Until my husband's attitude towards me became gentle. At home I didn't care what he did during the 2 or 3 hours he spent seeing his family at the weekend. I gave them their space. At the time, my daughter Sarah was 3 years old, and my in-laws began poisoning her ears, saying that her mother was a bad woman. But my daughter fought back, crying and saying that her mother was a good person. Then she came home and told me what had happened. My husband laughed at the situation, saying that they were just teasing the little girl. But I knew From then on, I never let my daughter spend time alone with those evil women. Things started to get worse last year, when my S started dating a wealthy businessman from Scotland. It's understandable that she could find a man like that to fall in love with her, but why was my husband so excited about it? It really made me curious, so I'd like to introduce you to my in-laws. Phil retired a few years ago and lives in an ancestral farmhouse in the countryside. I've only met him a few times, and he's a serious man, not like the others. That's probably why he moved out to seek peace and quiet. My mill and bay window are both idle, living off the rent from one of Phil's properties and the pocket money he gives me. My husband also gives some of his salary to his mother as pocket money. I've always been independent, so I don't mind Andrew giving his mother some pocket money. Back to the topic. Ever since my daughter started dating that rich guy, her attitude has completely changed for the worse. She thinks of herself as a princess, so she often flaunts it at family gatherings or any social occasions, showing off the expensive gifts her boyfriend gave her. My S never misses the chance to show everyone how rich her boyfriend is. Interestingly, my Mill also strutted around with her head held high, giggling like a teenager with her. Their behavior made me uneasy, and my annoyance was written all over my face. It wasn't because of jealousy or anything like that, but because my Mill and Sil managed on a meager income, and they never crossed the line because they had little to show off or look down on me for. However, since she had her new deep love, both of them tried to belittle me, accusing me of being jealous of them. Of course they did not do so. They never crossed the line, because they had little to brag about or look down on me. However, with her new deep love, they both subtly tried to belittle me and accused me of being jealous of them. Of course, they did not say it to my face, but I got the hint from their body language, and some relatives quickly confirmed it. Shortly thereafter, I became pregnant with my second child, which, thank God, spared me from having to visit them. Andrew insisted that I let Sarah spend time alone with them, but Sarah refused. She was 5 years old, but she didn't want to be with them. I know some people will blame me for turning my daughter against her in-laws, but I have to tell you, children have more judgment than adults and can tell the difference between love and hypocrisy. When I was pregnant the first time, I was so sick that I had to stay in bed, but my in-laws never came to visit. When I was pregnant the second time, it was relatively easy, but they came to visit a lot, not to see me, but to show off their new jewelry collection, their fashionable clothes, or their thousands of dollars worth of handbags. I just stared blankly at my boyfriend's wealth, and their plans for a big wedding in Scotland and so on. I just nodded blankly and sighed inwardly. A week ago, Mill and Sil suddenly showed up. They started praising my cooking. Sil said she really liked the apple pie and bacon donuts I made, which made me very happy. I became suspicious of their actions and asked why they suddenly remembered the desserts I made for them a few years ago. They were taken aback that I didn't thank them but got straight to the point. Sil said she had been craving apple pie for a long time, but that no restaurant's apple pie was as good as mine, so they hoped I would bake it for her. I thanked them and told them I wasn't well, baking required extra energy, and being pregnant and taking care of a child made it impossible for me to do it. They were unwilling to accept my refusal, and still insisted that I bake it for her. I couldn't refuse anymore, so I said I would try to bake when I felt better. After the wedding, Sil hugged me for the first time and said she wanted me to bake on Sunday. I didn't say anything more and didn't notice why she asked me to bake on Sunday. To be honest, I didn't plan on baking at all if I did it on Sunday. I said I agreed to avoid the problems at that time. As the week went on, I was so exhausted from being pregnant and taking care of Sarah that I forgot about it during dinner on Friday night. Andrew told me that he would be busy over the weekend because Sel's boyfriend and family were coming over for dinner. At that moment I was shocked and everything made sense. I suddenly understood everything, the request for apple pie and bacon donuts, and why she wanted to eat them on Sunday. Okay, I know that the apple pie I bake is the best. I'm really good at making apple pie, but that doesn't mean I'll give in to their demands. I told Andrew that his mother and sister were visiting and asked for dessert. Andrew said that his mother's boyfriend and his Scottish family love sweets, and they have heard a lot of stories about American apple pie and want to taste authentic apple pie. Andrew almost blurted out that his silly sister once bragged that she could bake the best apple pie and promised to serve it to his family at a family dinner. I told him that I would not take on that hard work under those circumstances because someone else would take the credit, and I wasn't even invited to the dinner. He said that I was 7 months pregnant and his mother thought that I would feel uncomfortable in front of guests, so they didn't invite me. Although I believe that her intentions were sincere, that was not why they didn't tell me about the dinner. When they came to visit me, they asked for dessert. Andrew just shrugged and said he didn't know. Andrew went to pick up his father on Saturday and said he would be home on Sunday night. Of course, I wanted to make a big deal out of it and argue with Andrew, but I chose to psych myself up. I knew that no matter what I did, I couldn't stop him from attending the event on Sunday. I deliberately turned off my phone and locked myself in the room with Sarah. I guess my Mill and Hill tried to contact me on my phone, but they couldn't get through, so they left a voice message on my home phone. I didn't answer the phone either, even though I knew they would scold me for backing down. But I was satisfied that I had not obliged them. On Monday morning when I switched on my phone, I saw that it was full of missed calls and voice messages, starting with please and ending with expletives, because as soon as they had been notified, their message had been sent to me. I got a call from my Mill and boy was that the longest monologue I had ever heard. I had always known her true colors, but that day I got a glimpse of her bitter face. She accused me of ruining their dinner and called me a witch. Apparently they thought I would eat dessert, so they didn't prepare or order any. Since my S wanted to impress her in-laws by treating my food like her food, in the end, the sweet-toothed Scot had to leave the table without dessert and with a grievance. And guess what? I was blamed for their disappointment, and my Mill cursed me. I could only imagine their funny faces at the table. I was thinking that if they ordered something from outside it wouldn't be a big deal. I know my S is a good cook, but restaurant food can at least save them from embarrassment. Anyway, it's not my problem. I said the same thing and hung up. In addition to the text messages from Mill and Sil, there was also a late-night text from Andrew saying he wasn't coming home that night and would be back after work on Monday. When Andrew came home that night, he was silent but not angry. I tried to tell him what his mother had told me, but he interrupted me, saying he didn't want to get involved. He said I should feel lucky that he wasn't scolding me for embarrassing my family last night, so I shouldn't expect him to support me against whatever his mother and sister think of me. I'm very confused about this. I didn't take his mother and sister seriously because I knew they were evil, but what did Andrew want? For starters, he should have taken a stand when I was excluded from the family dinner. Why the hell was I responsible for ruining an event I wasn't invited to? We haven't spoken since, and neither he nor I have made any effort to communicate, even though I feel in my heart that I'm done with them for good. Deep down I sabotaged myself, wondering if I really ruined their reputation by refusing their demands. Demand? I don't know. Guys. Update 1. Hi everyone. It's been 2 months since I originally posted. I'm 40 weeks pregnant and about to give birth. After writing my last post, I realized I was being too lenient. 2 weeks after that incident, I had to go for a scan, and Andrew accompanied me home. I tried to discuss it, but he told me to move on and focus on my health. He was being normal at the time, and I'm positive that he didn't hold a grudge, but for some reason I feel like he's acting mysteriously. This morning when I opened my eyes, I saw Andrew packing his suitcase. He was trying to stuff his wedding suit into one of the bags. I couldn't help but shudder when I saw this, and I almost shouted at him, asking him why he was packing. He said he was going to Scotland for his sister's wedding. I was at a loss for words. I mean, how could this happen? I asked him why he hadn't informed me when the date was set, and even more so, why he was leaving me when the baby was due. Yes, I was going to give birth tomorrow. He tried to avoid the question or answer with one syllable. I told him that he couldn't avoid me like that. I was angry, sad, upset, and shocked all at the same time. Can you imagine your husband leaving you alone with a toddler on your due date? I can't express more. I won't lie, I was calm. I took him by the shoulders and signaled him to answer. He said it was a last-minute decision and he had to go. His sisters-in-law were in-laws and insisted on this particular day, and there was nothing he could do about it. Of course, he could have done anything. He could have left in the middle of the wedding. Our doorbell rang. Andrew hurried to open the door, as if he was waiting for his mother. She barged into the house, yelling at Andrew that he was late, and dragged his luggage outside the room, saying that he didn't need to pack the rest because they could buy whatever was missing from Scotland. Those words were like a slap in the face. At that moment, when she smirked at me, I really wanted to punch her. I realized that it was too late to stop Andrew or argue with him. So I walked through Andrew's luggage in the living room, returned to my room, and locked the door. Andrew's backpack in the living room, the door locked. I heard my mill scold me loudly. They left soon after. Then I realized why Andrew had been acting so mysterious for the past month. I thought he was just entangled between me and his family. I was physically and mentally exhausted and cried out loud. I realized that the chaos had awakened my daughter Sarah. She came to me, hugged me and said I would be fine and that I should feel excited because the family would soon have a baby. Her innocent words melted my heart and I held her in my arms. We spent the whole day playing in bed. I tried to distract myself, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get over the fact that Andrew had abandoned me in this situation. Every now and then I broke down. I called my sister and asked her to stay with me tomorrow because I didn't know when my labor would start. Today's update is because what happened today was unbearable. I hope my labor goes well. Hello everyone. I know I haven't updated in a few months. First of all, I was lucky enough to give birth to a boy. Thank you. The other day, shortly after I posted, I logged into Facebook and saw Andrew happily posting pictures of his trip to Scotland with his family. I couldn't hold back anymore and broke down. It was past midnight and Sarah was already asleep. I went to the bathroom and let my emotions out. I had been holding back all day in Sarah's presence. I cried for almost an hour. When I realized that my water had broken, I almost fainted. Somehow I managed to crawl to the living room and call an ambulance. I have a vague recollection of what happened next, except that I was loaded into the ambulance and taken to the hospital, where I was stabilized. I called out Sarah's name. The nurse said they found Sarah crying by my side when I became confused, and since there was no one else in the house, they took her with them. The poor child was sitting up front with the paramedics. I felt such a huge relief that my daughter was safe and sound. A few minutes after arriving at the hospital, I gave birth to my baby boy. The nurse said they tried to contact my husband, but his number was disconnected. My sister lives 120 miles away and arrived a few hours in the morning. After learning about my situation, she scolded me for not calling her earlier. I thought I had a day. She also demanded that I get rid of Andrew as soon as possible because the hospital officials found me in this condition, and they reported it to the police. The police asked me if I had been abused or beaten by my husband, because they thought I had been abandoned in that condition. I told them that was not the case, that I had not been physically harmed, but mentally and emotionally. Andrew was charged with negligence, which did threaten the lives of 3 people. My unborn baby Sarah, my life and the lives of my parents. I shudder to think what could have happened that day. I am very grateful that I was able to call an ambulance in time, and that God protected us. 2 days later, I was discharged from the hospital. By then, my parents had also arrived, having traveled 2,500 miles. My parents were determined to sue Andrew and his family for the emotional distress they had caused me during my pregnancy. They moved my things from the house while I was still in the hospital. I also didn't want to be with Andrew anymore. Who would want a husband like that after being released from the hospital? It was almost a week after I was released from the hospital before Andrew returned home. Judging from his Facebook activity, they extended their vacation after the wedding to explore Scotland. I was surprised to see that he was enjoying his holiday so easily, without a care in the world that his wife would be gone for the duration. He didn't even call or text me. I didn't bother him either because I planned to sabotage him and his family a week later. When he returned, he found the house empty and the legal notice of divorce and police charges weighing on him. He had a week to make a statement to the police. He panicked and called me 100 times. I won't lie, I enjoyed his endless phone calls and pleading voicemails. Soon, I received requests from my mail and voicemails asking me to talk to them. I told my parents about it, and they called Andrew and asked him to come to our house. That same day, he flew to our house with his mother. My parents humiliated them both for torturing me and threatened to ruin their lives. Andrew insisted on talking to me in private. He begged me to forgive him and make up. He began to captivate me with his emotions, saying that our children also needed a father, and that I should not deny them their happiness. I asked him the gender of our second child, but he didn't say a word. My child is only a week old, but his father doesn't know he was born. Do you think a child needs a father like that? His mother and mother-in-law begged for forgiveness, saying that these court cases would damage their reputation in front of their new relatives. But I didn't care, I just laughed at her reasoning. Eventually, when they left, they insisted on seeing the newborn, but I didn't want them to see my child in the shadows. My father threw them out of the house, and in the meantime I contacted my new husband on social media. We had never met, and when I introduced myself, to my surprise, he too had his doubts about Andrew and his family. They used the pregnancy as an excuse to keep me away from family gatherings and the wedding. I told him what had happened to me, and he said he was surprised to find out that Andrew had snubbed his wife at the wedding, while his wife was in labor, and that even though it was too late, he still asked me about my foolishness. I told him the truth about her nature and about the apple pie. He said that their behavior was indeed sinister, but now it made sense to him. Apparently my foolishness had shaped me into a cook, and my mill had exaggerated her lies by saying they owned a chain of restaurants in the country. I revealed the truth that his lovely wife had never even boiled an egg. He called her a gold digger and promised to be discreet about our conversation. I told him that even if he revealed that I had revealed all the truth, I would not be bothered. In fact, I wanted them to know it was me. 10 months after that showdown, I finally finalized my divorce last week. I was awarded sufficient maintenance on the grounds of neglect of mother and child, mental torture during pregnancy, and safety risks. I was awarded half the house, as we both contributed to the purchase price, and I gave Andrew a deadline of 3 months to pay for my share of the house or it would be auctioned off. I also received child support. Interestingly, shortly after my conversation with Syl's husband, I received a text message from Syl accusing me of ruining her life. It later transpired that her husband had done some research into my in-laws' background, and it turned out that they were not as wealthy as they had made out to be, and that Syl had also lied about a number of things, including gossip about her job provided by some of her relatives. The Scotts returned Andrew's sister and divorced, accusing her of money laundering. Apparently she stole money from her in-laws' safe and sent it to her mother. Her husband called her a gold digger, because she had already squeezed thousands of dollars out of him during their dating days. I like to drink wine while listening to this gossip, and I hope this couple and their husband will live a happy gossip life in poverty.